Bright Duty. Every student matters.
Now we are going to start with second part of this unit 6, that is cultural processes, which include Sanskritisation, Westernization and Secularisation. These three different terms are given here. If we talk about the cultural process here, firstly we need to understand the meaning of culture, that how we can define the term culture. Culture is the accumulated store of different symbols, ideas and material products which are transmitted from one generation to another generation. If we talk about these cultural processes, so here we need to understand that this cultural processes of change show that how Indian culture has responded to the different or the various factor of change, how we have adopted or how we have accommodated those changes in our society. We have already discussed that if we talk about the cultural processes, it based on mainly two factors. These two factors can be, the one is endogenous factor, the another one can be the exogenous factor. The some factor, endogenous factor, which are having its origin within the society, which are from the society itself and bringing those change, bringing those social change in our society. Exogenous factors which are coming from outside, and these factors from the outside are bringing the change within the society, bringing that change in our society. So these two factors are playing very important role in this cultural processes. So let's start with the first part of that, Sanskritisation. If we talk about the Sanskritisation, it was the first term first used by M.N. Srinivas in his study on the courts of South India. According to Srinivas, if we talk about, he mentioned that the Sanskritisation is a process by which a low Hindu caste, a tribal or other group changes its custom, rituals, ideology and way of life in the direction of a high, frequently twice born caste. Here we need to understand that what actually this process is and how it was defined by M.N. Srinivas. He mentioned that when the particularly low caste group, low Hindu caste group or the other tribal group people are trying to change their beliefs, their customs, their ideas, and they are very much influenced by the twice born caste. Twice born caste means the other three upper caste of Hindus, that is Brahmins, Kshatriyas and Vaishyas. When the other low caste people, the Hindu low caste people, they are trying to influence or they are trying to grab the different ideas and beliefs of those high class people and bringing in their own custom and as their own tradition. So that is Sanskritisation. It is an endogenous process. Why it is an endogenous process? Because it is something which has occurred within the society. Here they have mentioned that it is emerged within the Indian society as a channel of social mobility within caste system, because here we are talking about the caste system and that changes took place within the caste system from one caste to another caste. Here these changes are taking place where the exchange of the values is going on. Exchange means instead of exchanging, we can say when the transformation can be taken, where the shifting is taking place. High class people are able to influence the low caste people, and being influenced by those high caste people, they are trying to grab their values, their customs, their traditions in their own caste. In the beginning, if we talk about, Srinivas coined this term as Brahmanization, because according to him it was found when he was doing the study, it was found that mainly these people, the Hindu low caste people, they were trying to copy down the ideas from Brahmins, the higher class of Hindu caste. But later on, when the study, he continued with the survey and the study, it was found that it was not the case. These low caste people were also trying to copy down or imitate the values from the other two caste groups also. For example, from Kshatriyas as well as from Vaishyas. So that's why the name was changed. That's why the term was coined as Sanskritisation instead of Brahmanization. Clear? The next we are moving towards Westernization. We need to understand, we need to define that what was the meaning of Westernization. This term was also popularized by M.N. Srinivas to describe the Western impact on Indian culture, that how the Western countries were having its impact on Indian society, basically on Indian culture. According to him, if we talk about Westernization, refers to changes brought about in Indian society and culture as a result of over 150 years of British rule. So, he defines that this Westernization is the result of the colonial power. It is the result of colonial rule over India for more than 150 years. And the term subsumes changes occurring in technology, institution, ideology and different values. And further, he takes this changes, whatever the changes occurred during the British rules, towards changes occurred later in technology, institution and other different ideologies, as well as the values based on different factors. This term Westernization, we can say that it is used to explain the social change. The change occurred in the society in India in cultural terms basically. And compared to modernization, to explain this cultural change, Westernization is a neutral term. Reason, because it does not imply whether the process is good or bad. But when we are talking about modernization, somewhere we can get the exact idea, whatever the things we are adopting are whether are going to be good or bad. But Westernization is a sort of neutral one. It is not giving us any sense that whatever the changes we are bringing or whatever the changes has been brought in our society, whether they are going to have the good impact or bad impact. Now we are going to do the discussion over the several factors which led to the process of Westernization, and some of these are following. The first one, we can say that industrialization and the development of the modern means of transport and communication like railways, post and telegraph services was the one factor which brought that Westernization in Indian society. And all these changes we all know that were occurred during British rule, means these were initiated or were started in British rule. Later on these were developed or these were improved. Second, we can say the another factor of Westernization can be urbanization or the growth of towns and cities. When the people started moving from villages to these towns and cities, it led to urbanization, and when urbanization was there, it started getting influenced by Western culture easily, because nuclear family were already emerged there. So they were not confined with their old tradition or the customs. They started adopting the new values. When they were away from their families, they started adopting the new changes in their culture and in their tradition. New system, the next one they have given, the new system of land settlement and revenue also led to bringing the change in the society, and which ultimately taken it to Westernization, when the land division was not like that of rural areas. The establishment of modern army and police force and the judicial system also brought those glimpses of Westernization, that because we know that Westernization, especially if we are talking about the Britain or USA, the developed countries at that time, they were already following these things. The modern army process was there, the modern army system was already prevailing there, police force system was also there, as well as the proper judicial system. So we also copied down the same things, we also imitated the same things from that Western countries. Another most important impact of this Westernization, or the factor we can say which led to the emergence of Westernization in our Indian society, was introduction of English education. Because when the Britishers came, English was introduced as the official language, and it worked as the linked language also, that we have already discussed, that how it led to linked language. And when the English education was introduced, it started changing, or it gave the access to Indians to get the knowledge of the Western culture, to know the values of the Western culture. And slowly and gradually, when the people were started getting engaged in that, they started capturing the things from there, they started collecting those values and involving them in their own tradition and customs. The next is the introduction of printing press, which was one of the biggest factor in bringing the change in Indian society. This printing culture led to the reading population. It led to the emergence of reading population. Now more and more books, journals, newspapers started getting printing. People were exposed, here we can say that people were getting exposed to Western ideas very easily, and this was the time period, this because of this introduction of printing press, that more and more people are getting influenced easily. Somewhere they were finding their own traditional values and their own traditional ways or traditional customs as a very rigid one, and they were finding these Western culture values and their ideas the very flexible one, which started taking them to the modernization and led to Westernization in Indian society. According to Srinivas, if we talk about this, the most important factor out of these was, one of the important emerging factor at that time was humanitarianism, which this humanitarianism was the one, it means the concern for the welfare of the human beings. Earlier, the government at the time was not that much concerned about the welfare of the people, but because of this Westernization, this idea also emerged, where the welfare of the people was considered as an important part of the society. Irrespective of their caste, culture, creed, all these things were irrespective, and here we can say that they were not considered while they were talking about the welfare or the development of these people, those who were living in cities or towns. It led to the factors of freedom, we can say, equality among the people. Further, we can define Westernization, that further we can say that Westernization has considerable impact on Indian society. Two of them are very important. The first one, the emergence of middle class, and the second one, the emergence of nationalism and democracy. If we talk about the first one, the emergence of middle class, it was the time period when the industrialization was introduced and people started shifting from rural to urban areas. And when the people started moving from that agricultural sector to the another sector, the factories or industries, they started working over there. So this was the time that this class, when they changed their occupation, so that emerged as a middle class. And not only these industrial workers, the professionals also came into existence. The traders also started emerging in these urban centers. So all these were taken as the middle class people. The emergence of nationalism and democracy was also the result of that Westernization. Why nationalism? In creating the feelings of nationalism, printing press, we can say, printing we can say that printing press played an important role. Not only printing press, but we can say that it played an important role in creating that feeling of nationalism. Printing press led to Westernization because the people were getting exposed to Western ideas, Western culture, Western values, new ideologies were formed, and ultimately when the people started getting the news about the world, that what actually going on outside India, that how the countries are fighting with each other for their own freedom, and still we are under the control of Britishers. So when the First World War started in 1914, at that time Indians were also taken to Britain as a part of Britain army. At that time the ideas started spreading from there, and through these different mode of printing press, the people were getting the knowledge that what actually going on. So slowly and gradually they also started getting the idea for their nationalism. They started having the feeling, the feeling of nationalism started emerging, feeling of love for their own nation. It started emerging among the people, among the Indian, and they also asked for the democratic rights. They started asking for the rights where the people are going to be the main ruler of the country. So these were the two important outcomes or the impact of Westernization that we can discuss, were very well visible after. So we can say that these are the two important impacts of Westernization that were very well visible on Indian society. And here if we talk about this, Westernization was an exogenous process or exogenous factor. We talked about Sanskritisation, that was an endogenous factor because the factor within the society were responsible for bringing the change in that, in the caste system. Whatever the changes were brought, it was the result of factors responsible within the society. But here Westernization is the exogenous factor. Reason because outside factor, the impact of the outside world was there which brought that change in the Indian society. The next we are going to start with this secularization. Secularization means, you must be knowing the meaning of secular when we are talking about related to religion. So how we can define this secularization? It is the process through which the influence and importance of religion declines in public affairs. If we talk about this, secularization is a positive term because it is not going to have that traditional impact on the people. It is going to have that less impact as well as the less influence on the public affairs, where the people are not more concerned about their religion. Instead, they are more concerned about the development or the growth of the nation. Under this secularization, we can say that religion is replaced by the rational and scientific explanation of facts and events, where the people are becoming more rational and more practical instead of getting themselves bind towards the traditional values related to their particular religion. And with that industrialization, urbanization, if we talk about importance of religion in social life also decreases. The process of secularization in India, we can say it began after the establishment of British rule and it became more intense after independence. So somewhere again the Britishers were responsible for bringing that change in Indian society, which brought this positive change and which led to the emergence of secularization in our country. Now we are going to discuss about the different factors which helped in promoting secularization in India. So following are the factors here. The first one, industrialization, development of transport and communication, and urbanization. These three are the very important factors. Industrialization led to change in the family structure, or we can say the social structure of the society. It brought change in that structure, which led to emergence of more rational class. The middle class emerged when they started moving from rural to urban areas. So that when they started changing from one place to another place, they settled there as a nuclear, as the individualism was getting more attention at that time. The people started giving less preference to their religion. Instead, they were paying more attention towards the other factors of that society. They were adopting new values, they were adopting the Western culture, they were adopting the new ideas from the different culture, from the different communities. Development of transport and communication also reduced that gap between the one religious group, and development of transport and communication also helped in reducing these gap between the different religious groups, because now they were able to interact more with each other. They were getting involved themselves combiningly for the different activities or for the different occasions in urban centers. Urbanization also was one of the factor which helped in promoting secularization. Reason being, because due to urbanization, if we talk about, the society was changing its outlook. The people started adopting the ideas of modernization, where they were changing their traditional outlook into the modern or the new outlook. The another factor which helped in promoting the secularization was the modern education. Modern education was not confined within the boundaries. It was not confined within the higher class people. It was the equal access was given to all the people. So each and every class was getting the equal access, and which was leading to equality or freedom among them. So the people were not more bothered about their religious activity. They were more concerned about being the part of the whole society instead of being a part of a particular religious community. The next one is given here, the another factor, the freedom movements and the movement against untouchability and other social evils. These are the social evils, if we talk about, which were already prevailing in ancient India. When the Britishers came, the changes started occurring, and even Raja Ram Mohan Roy, if we talk about, he was the one who initiated against this untouchability. These were the evils which were creating differences among the people in our society, which were not leading them towards equality or freedom. So here, when these ideas, when the movement started taking against these social evils, it led them towards the secularization. Another one, the establishment of secular state. We know that India has been declared as a secular state. What does it mean? It means that India does not have its single state religion. All the religion, if we talk about, all the religion according to our constitution, under our constitution, if we mention, all are equal and all are getting the same preferences. So no importance is given to any particular religion. Although we know that Hindus are in majority in India. We know that Hindus are in majority in India, but it doesn't mean that only Hindu religion is getting the preference in our country. All the other religion are also getting the equal importance and equal preference. And when we have declared India as a secular state where all the religion we are taking equal, so somewhere it is leading to the secularization, which is removing the gap between the different religious group. Because earlier, if we talk about, the differentiation was very much visible and the people were differentiated on the basis of their religion. But due to these industrialization, urbanization and modernization, these all differences are getting vanished. Next, if we talk about the impact or the consequences of secularization can be seen in every aspect of personal as well as in social life. Although we can say that whatever the outcomes of the secularizations are there are not at all uniform. It is not applicable in the same manner in all parts of the country or in all the societies existing in our country. Here we can say that urban dwellers or the educated class are more affected as compared to the other people, because those who are living in urban centers or urban areas or these cities and towns, they are more exposed to these changes. So we can say that the impact is not uniform. The changes which we are bringing in the society are not uniform everywhere, but mainly the people living in urban centers are those who are getting much affected by these changes. Now we are going to discuss about some aspects of the life which are getting affected by this secularization. So first one we can see here, in the caste system, ideas of purity and pollution have changed. Earlier, according to traditional ideas, if we talk about some kinds of food, for example, if we talk about meat, alcohol, they were polluting. They were considered as the polluting one. They were considered as the polluted one, and some occupations were considered impure. These ideas were formally supported by religious beliefs, but now they have also changed. Secondly, we talk about in the family, the importance of religion has decreased. Ceremonies and the different rituals we are performing in the families, for example, during the marriage ceremonies, funeral rites and the other family rituals. These are either shortened or has assumed new meanings to it. For example, wedding receptions are seen as social functions and occasions just for showing off. They are not actually following these old traditions they are not actually following all these ceremonies under the traditional values. Now these scenario is changing, which is very well visible in the Indian families. The next one, in the village community, among the weaker section, if we talk about the traditional practicer, here in the village community, among the weaker sections, the traditional practice of surrender before the fate has been replaced by an attitude of defiance, because the people are not ready to accept now that they are belonging to some other caste or low caste or particular religion which is not equal to others. So these kind of changes are very well visible among the weaker section also, and how they are reacting to these changes. So we need to understand that how they have stopped surrendering before the fate and they are ready to accept the different challenges in our society. So according to Srinivas, the one who coined this term, we can define that secularization is a more general process which is affecting all the Indians. Although the impact is not uniform, somewhere some people are getting its more influence and somewhere the influence is less, but it has in one or the another way, it has affected all. On the other hand, if we talk about Sanskritisation, it affects only Hindus and tribal groups mainly. Secularization is more marked among the urban and educated groups. Sanskritisation is more visible among the Hindu lower caste and tribal group. So here we have to understand the difference between these terms that we have used here. Sanskritisation, Westernization, or we are talking about secularization. Clear? So hopefully this chapter is clear to each and everyone. We are done with that.